Have you ever wondered what truly happens when you decide to remove yourself from someone's life? Not just partially, but completely? This isn't about taking a step back or a temporary break. It's about a full disappearance. No calls, no texts, no familiar presence left behind. In a world where loyalty is often taken for granted and the efforts of those who care are overlooked, what happens when you change the game? When you choose silence over confrontation, self-respect over the need for validation, and independence over holding on to what's comfortable. Imagine being the one who always showed up, the one who listened, supported, and carried the emotional weight of a relationship. Now, picture pulling that presence away entirely, leaving nothing but echoes in your absence. The impact this has on the person left behind is profound, unraveling in layers they never anticipated. It begins with a sting of rejection and spirals into deep self-reflection, overwhelming regret, and a desperate urge to reach out. But this story is not only about them. It's about you, the one who found the strength to walk away and choose yourself. This isn't just a story of loss and longing. It's a testament to reclaiming your power. By the end, you'll see that disappearing isn't about punishment or manipulation. It's about rediscovery, about choosing your own peace in a world that often pushes you to settle for less. It's about understanding that silence can be the loudest statement you'll ever make. So, if you've ever been the one who gave more than they received, if you've ever wondered what would happen if you simply stopped showing up, this is your story. Dive in and find out how walking away can change not just their life, but yours forever. 1. The sting of rejection. Have you ever wondered what truly happens when you remove yourself from someone's life completely, without any warning or trace? This isn't about taking a break or stepping back for a while. It's about an absolute and sudden departure. No calls, no texts, and not even a lingering presence to remind them of your existence. What do they feel when the person they once took for granted simply vanishes, in a world where loyalty and consistent effort are often seen as givens rather than cherished treasures? The impact of choosing silence over confrontation can be profound. It flips the narrative in an unexpected way. You prioritize your self-respect over seeking approval and independence over clinging to an unsatisfying past. This bold move can be transformative for you and for them. But what do they feel when you choose to disappear? The first emotion they experience is a sharp, deep sting of rejection, one that cuts far deeper than they anticipate. It is the shock of realizing that the one person they thought would always be there is now gone. In their mind, you were the constant, the one who cared more, tried harder, and kept the connection alive. But when you walk away, they're left grappling with a sudden void. It dawns on them that they have lost someone irreplaceable. This feeling goes beyond surface-level discomfort. It becomes a visceral, personal pain. They may have assumed they could take you for granted, that you would always be their safety net. But when that net is suddenly pulled away, they're left in free fall, spiraling through confusion and regret. The absence of your presence doesn't just strip them of comfort, it denies them the silent validation they relied on. You were the grounding force that, even unacknowledged, provided them with a sense of significance. Now, that source of validation is gone, and they are forced to confront the reality of their loss. What makes this sting so profound is its suddenness. You didn't issue warnings or ultimatums. You simply disappeared. This leaves them without closure, compelling them to reflect on their actions and confront the ways they may have driven you away. Their pride and ego crumble as they come face to face with the fact that their behavior led to this outcome. As they process this rejection, they begin to reassess the memories they shared with you, the times you stayed up to comfort them, your small acts of kindness, and the steady presence that once held them up. Now, all of that has vanished. The rejection becomes a brutal awakening, forcing them to reconsider their assumptions and the dynamic they once took for granted. The key lesson here is that rejection shifts the balance of power. By choosing to walk away silently, you reclaim your worth and compel them to face the harsh truth. They lost someone who genuinely cared, and that loss was entirely their doing. 2. The void of missing you. After the sting of rejection settles into their consciousness, a deeper and more gnawing feeling takes its place: a void. At first, they might convince themselves that your absence won't matter. "I'll move on," they tell themselves, forcing bravado they don't fully feel. But reality, as it often does, has a way of unraveling those confident thoughts. The truth becomes undeniable. Your absence leaves a profound emptiness, an ache they can't ignore. This void isn't just about losing a person. It's about losing what you uniquely brought into their life. It's only now, when you're gone, that they recognize the energy, warmth, and stability you contributed. Their days suddenly feel hollow. The routines that once seemed ordinary now lack their luster. The silence at the end of the day, when conversations that once filled the space are no longer there, is deafening. They attempt to fill this emptiness in various ways. Perhaps they surround themselves with friends, throw themselves into work, or seek out new relationships to distract from the void you left behind. But distractions can only do so much. No matter how many people they surround themselves with or how busy they try to be, the ache remains a shadow that follows them even in the most crowded rooms. Your presence was unique, and they start to realize that no one else brings the same comfort, laughter, or understanding that you did. The absence begins to highlight the small details they once overlooked, the way your smile lifted their mood, how you listened without judgment, and even the little quirks that once annoyed them but now feel irreplaceable. These reflections are a cruel irony, a constant reminder that the very things they undervalued are now the things they miss the most. As the void grows, regret starts to seep into their thoughts. They remember the small moments they took for granted, the late-night chats, the subtle gestures of support, the familiar exchanges that once seemed mundane but now feel like treasures lost. The more they try to deny the loss, the more it deepens. What began as a whisper of your absence turns into a roar that drowns out their attempts to move forward. The lesson here is simple yet profound. People often fail to appreciate what they have until it's no longer there. By choosing to walk away and leave them with only memories, you force them to confront the value you brought into their life. And that void? It lingers far longer than they expected, a constant reminder that some losses are not so easily replaced. 3. Overwhelming curiosity. Once they've come to terms with the void left behind, their emotions shift to something more restless and overwhelming curiosity. What are you doing now? Where are you? Who are you spending time with? Your sudden and complete disappearance transforms you into a mystery they can't resist trying to solve. The not knowing is more tormenting than any clear answer could ever be. Humans are naturally drawn to the unknown, and in your absence, you become an enigma. They start to check your social media, scrolling through posts, stories, and updates, hoping for a clue to your life without them. But this is where your decision to go silent proves to be brilliant. There's nothing for them to find. No updates, no shared moments, no evidence of your existence. The silence is both infuriating and intoxicating, pulling them deeper into an obsessive need to understand what happened and where you are now. The unanswered questions start to build in their mind. Have you moved on? Are you happier? Did someone else come along to take the place they left vacant? Their curiosity morphs into a fixation that even pride can't suppress. They might reach out to mutual friends, posing casual questions that thinly veil their desperation for information. Yet, the fear of being too transparent holds them back from outright asking about you. Without facts to ground them, their imagination takes over and not in their favor. They picture you thriving, finding joy in new experiences, or being with someone who appreciates you in ways they didn't. These imagined scenarios sting more than they'd like to admit. The irony is that while their curiosity is fueled by the need for answers, it also magnifies the loss they already feel. Your silence becomes a powerful tool in the stage. By remaining out of reach and off the grid, you retain control of the narrative. Each question they can't answer deepens their longing to know what could have been. In the end, their overwhelming curiosity serves as a painful reminder of what they once had and lost, a life that was richer when you were part of it. 4. Deep self-reflection. As the overwhelming curiosity reaches its peak and exhaustion sets in, they are left with no choice but to turn inward. This is when deep self-reflection begins a stage that is as uncomfortable as it is transformative. With no contact from you and no way to satiate their need for answers, they're forced to confront themselves, to replay every interaction and examine their own actions. This self-reflection is not a voluntary choice. It's an unavoidable consequence of your absence. Regret starts to weave itself into their thoughts as they remember the times they ignored your messages, dismissed your feelings, or treated you like an afterthought. These memories, once so easily brushed aside, now weigh heavily. They begin to question themselves. Was I too indifferent? Did I take them for granted? Was my pride worth losing them? These questions are like thorns, piercing through their defensive layers and forcing them to confront the reality of who they were in the relationship. This stage strips them of their usual coping mechanisms. The distractions that once worked so well, hanging out with friends, indulging in new hobbies, or keeping busy, no longer provide the same relief. There is no one to blame but themselves. Your absence acts as a mirror, and what they see reflected isn't flattering. They start to recognize the role they played in your departure, the ways they pushed you away without even realizing it. The memories that resurface are not just of grand moments, but of the small, seemingly insignificant details. The way you were always there when they needed comfort, the little sacrifices you made, the laughter shared over mundane conversations. They become acutely aware of the subtle kindnesses they once overlooked. The pain of this realization cuts deeper than they ever thought possible because, for the first time, they see your true value with absolute clarity. What makes this stage particularly powerful is that it's entirely internal. No one is pointing out their flaws or making them feel guilty. They're doing the work on their own, and the lessons they learn are far more impactful than any confrontation could be. This self-awareness is the price of losing you, a painful but necessary journey that underscores just how significant your absence is. Your silence during this phase is crucial. It allows them to sit with their thoughts, their guilt, and their regrets without interruption. This is where growth begins, not just for them, but for you as well. By choosing to stay silent, you give them the space to understand the depth of their mistakes and recognize the value they let slip away. And as they grapple with this self-reflection, they can't help but wish for a chance to go back and do things differently. 5. The urge to pursue you. After days or even weeks of self-reflection, something shifts within them. The regret that once felt paralyzing begins to morph into an overwhelming urge to fix what was broken. The tables turn, and where you once made all the effort, they now find themselves longing to reach out, to bridge the gap and win you back. AT first. This pursuit might start subtly. They might send a casual, seemingly innocent message like, "Hey, I've been thinking about you," or engage with your old social media posts in a bid to capture your attention. These small gestures are designed to test the waters, to see if there's any possibility of reconnecting without risking outright rejection. However, as time passes and you remain distant, their efforts grow more intense. They may start sending long, heartfelt texts, acknowledging their mistakes and expressing how much they miss you. These messages might come late at night when they feel most vulnerable or fueled by the bravery that only regret and a sense of urgency can bring. They'll grasp at any opportunity to remind you of their presence, even if it means facing the uncomfortable truth that the power dynamic has shifted entirely. The irony of this stage is that their pursuit is driven not only by the desire to have you back, but also by the realization that they no longer hold the power. The once confident person who believed you'd always be there is now filled with doubt and fear. They are no longer the ones with the upper hand, and this reversal is humbling, even painful. Your silence becomes your greatest asset during this phase. By choosing not to engage with their messages or efforts, you maintain control of your narrative. Each unanswered attempt serves as a powerful reminder that you've reclaimed your worth and will not settle for less than you deserve. The more they try and fail to win you back, the clearer it becomes that superficial gestures won't suffice. Let them feel the frustration and desperation of wanting something they can no longer control. This is their reality now, and it's one that underscores how profoundly your absence has affected them. 6. The battle between relief and regret. When you first disappear, they might experience a fleeting sense of relief. For a moment, they convince themselves that your absence is a weight lifted off their shoulders. Finally, I don't have to deal with them anymore, they think, almost reveling in a newfound sense of freedom. This initial reaction is born out of pride, a defense mechanism that shields them from acknowledging the real impact of your departure. They tell themselves that life will be easier, simpler, without you in it, but relief is a fickle feeling, one that fades faster than they expect. As the days stretch into weeks, that supposed freedom starts to feel hollow. The spaces you once filled the good morning texts, the supportive calls during tough days, the laughter over shared jokes are now gaping voids that make their days feel incomplete. The so-called excitement of moving on turns into restlessness. The relief they clung to shifts, first subtly and then overwhelmingly, into regret. Regret, unlike relief, is a deep and lingering emotion. It creeps into their thoughts when they least expect it, like in the quiet of the night when there's no one around to distract them. The moments they used to share with you play on repeat in their mind. The times they dismissed your feelings, brushed off your concerns, or took your presence for granted. It's only now, without you there, that they understand how much they relied on you to provide emotional stability and connection. This regret is compounded by the realization that they traded something meaningful for a fleeting sense of independence. The new distractions, friends, work, and hobbies failed to fill the gap. Every attempt to push away the regret only highlights what they lost. They begin to see the contrast between the shallow relief they once felt and the deep, enduring regret that now consumes them. The most painful part of this stage is understanding that the feeling of relief was temporary, but the loss is lasting. They thought they could move on without consequence, that life would continue as usual, but instead, they're faced with the painful truth. You were an essential part of their happiness, and now that's gone. Your absence allows them to experience this emotional turmoil fully. By letting them wrestle with their relief-turned regret, you reinforce the message that you will no longer be taken for granted. The longer they sit in this state, the more profound their understanding becomes of what they truly lost. 7. The desire to play the game. When regret takes hold and the sense of loss becomes unbearable, desperation often follows. It's in this desperation that they may resort to tactics that feel familiar but ultimately futile, playing games. The desire to regain control over the situation can lead them to attempts at manipulation, aimed at provoking a response from you and drawing you back into their orbit. This phase is marked by carefully curated social media posts and cryptic updates designed to catch your eye. They post smiling selfies with new friends, check in at places that once held significance for the two of you, or share stories that hint at newfound happiness. These are not genuine moments of joy. They are strategic moves aimed at making you notice them, wonder about them, and feel the sting of jealousy. However, the game doesn't end there. Passive-aggressive comments, indirect messages, and subtle provocations become their tools. They might even reach out with casual questions or likes on your old photos, hoping to gauge your reaction. Each move is a bid to make you engage, to regain a sense of power they lost when you chose to disappear. But here's where the power of your silence shines. By refusing to engage, you show them that you've moved beyond the cycle of petty manipulation. Their tactics, which might have worked in the past, now fall flat. The more they try to draw you back in, the clearer it becomes that you are no longer interested in playing along. You've grown beyond the reach of their games, and your silence speaks louder than any response ever could. This stage is frustrating for them because it exposes just how powerless they've become. They throw everything at you, yet you remain unbothered, unresponsive, and out of reach. The lack of reaction from you is like an echo of their own attempts, emphasizing how far removed you now are from their grasp. In refusing to play along, you communicate a message that is stronger than any game. You've chosen yourself. Their efforts only reinforce the wisdom of your decision to walk away, solidifying your emotional independence. And as they realize that their manipulative tactics no longer hold any sway over you, they are forced to confront an uncomfortable truth. The person they once had control over has now reclaimed their power. 8. The crushing weight of silence. If there's one thing that can break even the strongest defenses, it's silence. Your absence is already powerful, but your silence is what truly haunts them. When there are no messages, no calls, no signs of life from you, they are left with nothing but their own thoughts. This silence is suffocating, a constant echo of what's been lost. It forces them to relive their actions and reconsider every moment that might have led to your departure. In a world where communication is instant, where notifications are constant, and where people are used to immediate responses, Silence becomes more than just a pause, it becomes a statement. Your decision not to reach out, not to respond, and not to engage in any form of interaction is louder than words. It tells them that you are done, that you have moved on, and that their chapter in your life has closed. This realization chips away at their confidence and shatters any hope they might have held on to. They expected you to reach out eventually, to ask for closure, or even to rekindle the connection. But when days turn into weeks and weeks stretch into months, and there is still only silence, the weight of that reality sinks in. They start to feel a deep, gnawing sense of loss that no amount of distraction can ease. They begin to replay moments when they dismissed you, ignored your concerns, or brushed off your efforts to connect. The silence forces them to confront these memories and acknowledge their mistakes. It's a relentless reminder that the space you once filled with your voice, your presence, and your unwavering support is now empty. The more they try to fill it with noise, the more they realize it's not the same. The silence has become their constant companion, a mirror reflecting back their regrets. The quiet becomes unbearable because it magnifies what they fear most, that they have lost you for good. They may attempt to fill that silence by reaching out again, this time more desperately, with longer, more emotional messages, or even attempts to visit places they know you might be. But when you remain unresponsive, it underscores the finality of your decision. Your silence is not just the absence of sound, it's the presence of your strength. It shows that you are strong enough to maintain your boundaries, that you value yourself enough to step away from something that no longer served you. Each day that passes without a response reinforces your independence and proves that you don't need their validation or attention to feel whole. As the silence stretches on, they start to understand that this is not just a temporary phase. The silence becomes the symbol of your growth, your decision to choose peace over conflict and self-worth over seeking approval. And with each moment of quiet, they are left to face the truth that they may have underestimated you. It's a powerful, crushing realization that stays with them long after the echoes of silence fade. 9. The fear that brings them crawling back. As the silence continues and regret deepens, a new emotion takes over: fear. But this isn't just any fear, it's the kind that settles deep in their gut, leaving them restless and anxious. It's the realization that they may have lost you forever. For a long time, they were confident that you would always be there, waiting in the background, willing to come back at the first sign of reconciliation. Now, that security has vanished, replaced by the chilling thought that you might be gone for good. This fear manifests itself in vivid thoughts that torment them. They picture you smiling, moving on, and finding happiness with someone new. The idea of you laughing with another, building new memories, and sharing the kind of moments they once had with you becomes almost unbearable. It consumes them, turning their nights sleepless and their days heavy with anxiety. This is the moment when pride and ego crumble completely. The games they played, the casual attempts at regaining control, now seem petty and meaningless. They are left with a desperate need to reach out, to do whatever it takes to win you back. They begin to send long, emotional messages, filled with admissions of regret and confessions of how much they miss you. I didn't realize how much you meant to me. I can't stop thinking about you. Words that spill out in their rawest form. Some might even take it a step further, showing up at places where they know you'll be, unable to bear the idea of you slipping away without a fight. The once confident person who assumed you'd always be there now finds themselves vulnerable, willing to lay everything on the line to get even a fraction of what they had with you. But here's where the most profound part of the story lies. By the time they come crawling back, it's often too late. You are no longer the person who would have waited for their validation or craved their attention. You've grown. You've found strength in your independence and rediscovered your self-worth. The fear they feel is real and painful, but it's no longer your burden to bear. The final lesson is this: when you choose to walk away, you don't just leave someone behind. You rediscover yourself. Their fear and regret become proof of your growth, a testament to the power of choosing yourself over a relationship that didn't value you. It's a reminder that you deserve respect, genuine care, and the kind of love that doesn't require you to compromise your peace. Let them fear losing you, because in the end, you've already gained the most important thing, your freedom and peace, and there you have it: 9 stages someone experiences when you disappear from their life. Each stage, from the initial sting of rejection to the crushing weight of silence and the eventual fear that brings them back, reveals deeper truths about how your absence reshapes their world and forces them to confront their actions. But remember, this story isn't just about them, it's about you. Choosing to walk away is one of the boldest and most empowering decisions you can make. It's a testament to your strength and an assertion of your worth. It's a way of prioritizing your peace over the comfort of others and understanding that sometimes the greatest change comes not from what you say, but from what you choose not to say. Walking away isn't about revenge or making someone miss you. It's about respecting yourself enough to step away from what no longer serves you. It's about acknowledging that your time, energy, and emotions are valuable and should be invested in those who appreciate them. So, as you reflect on this journey, ask yourself, what do you need to let go of to become the strongest version of yourself? What would happen if you stopped holding on to people who don't appreciate you and started embracing the life you truly deserve? Remember, the most important relationship you'll ever have is the one with yourself. And when you choose to prioritize that relationship, you unlock a level of freedom and peace that no one can take from you. And there you have it, the story of what happens when you choose yourself and walk away. If this journey resonated with you, if it gave you a fresh perspective or inspired you to reclaim your worth, don't stop here. Our channel is dedicated to sharing stories that empower, uplift, and guide you toward becoming your best self. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out on content that could change your outlook and bring new insights into your life. Share this video with someone who might need to hear this message. They might thank you for it. And don't forget to leave a comment below. What part of this story spoke to you the most? Your story matters, and we're here to help you write it. Stay tuned, because more powerful stories are just around the corner, ready to inspire and uplift. See you in the next video.